Hello, Legionnaires. We are going to do things a little differently today. I'm going to start off by thanking folks. We're going to be backward all day today, and we can do that. So first of all, I'm extremely grateful you are here, and I sincerely thank you for spending your time with us today on RPG Digest. Special shout out to our new viewers. I hope you enjoy this live stream and come back again, especially for our other gaming talk that we will have when we return to form next week. Please consider supportive Legion. Oh my God, I cannot talk. Please consider supporting Legion of Myth through the links in the live stream's description. Rumble rants and super chats less than $20 will be read at the end of each segment, while those of $20 or more I will read as immediately as I can without derailing the conversation or the topic. Thank you very much for your kind donations. Now, I am John Maxley Oshlow, your favorite curmudgeon, critic, and judge. Along with me today is the original test dummy for Plastic Man Armor, Brett Heathen Dog Grismer, and our friend, everyone's favorite game designer, Kevin Boom-A-Gun. That's what I gave him. It's now forever out there on the internet. It's Kevin Boom-Gun Siembieda. How are you today, gentlemen?
We're well. But he's not well.
I'm booming.
I just triggered it. Yes.
Nice. So everyone, if you haven't noticed already, Kevin is a little sick. We are going to stick to a strict timetable today, which Max is spearheading. Does that bode well? I don't know. We'll find out.
He said he's sick. I said, whatever, get you put to work. This is the old day. This is the Gen X world. You weren't allowed to call in sick. You can still walk. Get you some crutches.
Yep. That's right. It's called walking pneumonia for a reason. Walking is the operative word.
Exactly.
No, we're really appreciative that Kevin is here, especially considering he's a bit under the weather or recovering from under the weather. So, I think today is going to be a fun show. Heathen Dog, anything you want to say before we get started here?
A couple of things.
Okay.
This talk today is going to be about concepts. It's not going to be really, really minutia rules heavy. Kevin is definitely not going to answer any minutia rule nonsense. I might, because I'm the perfect mixture of brave and stupid. So I might attempt to do that, or just make something up and see if you figure it out. I don't know. Could be that. We'll have fun.
All right, here we go. Well, first thing that we want to do is we want to kind of just talk about, hey, what's new with Kevin and what's new with Palladium Books. And I'll get some stuff on the screen here in just a moment. But it's been a couple months since we've talked. You've been a very, very busy person. If anybody goes back and actually reads those email lists, my God, like I was showing off not this last one, but one or two before. And people are like, how does he find time to do all this? And I'm like, well, now you know why he's not on the show.
Yeah, for sure. No, things are happening like crazy. We've got all kinds of stuff, and that's, you're talking about the special year, the special report that I did at the beginning of the year about the future of Palladium Books and what all is happening. And yeah, we've got all kinds of stuff going on, especially behind the scenes. Some of it I can't talk about, but people will be excited. You know, Sean's not here with me because he is overseas on special assignment, let's put it that way. And, doing business stuff overseas while still hammering out the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle and Other Strangeness Redux Edition, which is looking absolutely fabulous. I went over a bunch of pages this morning before the show, and oh my God, those books are going to be just so all of it, all the books, the product, all of it. I mean, here's one of the dice bags, good old shredder.
Look at the shredder dice bag, that's nice.
And the aluminum dice are just amazing. I don't know if you can tell. I thought these were going to be funky. Oh my God, I love these things. In fact, it was funny. I had for those who watch the Palladium YouTube channel at all. We're doing a history of Palladium on there with J.M. DeFoggy. And J.M. and his friend Molly visited the offices yesterday. And it was hilarious because every time they saw some of the product, like the dice tray and, some of the other dice and the dice tower, and they're like, I know. I need to add this to my extra list. I need to change this. I need to add that. And I'm like, whatever, but yes, it's all incredible and it's all getting there. There's just a lot going on with that. We thought the damn thing would be out this year, and it's just, we want to do it right. We want to make it beautiful. And I mean, Turtles is super special to everyone here. Especially to people who knew Eric Wojcik, and people who just, love the comics. So we want to make these some of the most mind-bending, fun, exciting. When people get these products, I want them to be doing happy dances. We're making sure it's getting all done right. And then, we have to make sure everything gets approved. And not just by Paramount, by us. Like, there were a bunch of little things when Fan World turned in a bunch of stuff. They're like, all right, that's what we talked about, but how about tweaking this and how about tweaking that? And they've been really good to work with. They are really quick to like, oh, okay, yeah, we can change that. We can change this. Like, these are just, very early samples of some of the stuff. And, we had them change some of the icons, because we talked about having a symbol for the D20 that represents one, each of the turtles, and we had to fool around with those to make them sure they look good. There were some funny stories that I probably shouldn't share, so I won't. But there was this one die where we looked at it, and our warehouse guy is the first guy who notices it. I couldn't believe it, because he's young, he's the youngest one here, and he looks at it and goes, oh, and it just, we're like, no, that's got to change. And it was like, yeah. And I'm so glad he said something, because it was like, no, this wouldn't be good. And maybe we would have caught it, and maybe Paramount would have caught it, but we're like, no.
From what you're sounding, it's like, someone spray painted genitalia on some dice or something. Like, what happened?
It wasn't that bad, but I mean, it was just, I guess I can say it, the way they had the nunchucks. So the first time the nunchucks, they're crossed. And the problem is, when you had these two nunchucks crossed, they look like some kind of Masonic symbol to me. It was like, what is this? I mean, it looks kind of cool, but what the hell is it? And then when they redid it, they did them in like an S shape, and they showed both pairs. So it looked like Nazi SS, especially shrunken so small when it's actually on the dice. It looked like an SS symbol. We're like, no. And that's the one that the kid caught. And he's like, yeah, does that look like the Nazi SS symbol to you? And we're like, what? So, there's all kinds of crazy little things. I mean, those kind of things are silly and funny, especially since we caught them. But, there's all kinds of little things you have to work out. And you would think it's just a simple matter, but, and then you got to go through, okay, they're going to redo them, and that takes a couple days, and then it takes a couple days for us to get back to them. And then we get it all approved here on this end, and then we have to send it to Paramount. But again, we want it to be all correct and right and beautiful, and we want the fans to get these things and go, oh, baby, I love these dice. And the books and the prints and the poker cards and the miniatures and the whole 9 yards.
Right. You're going for, oh my God, I love this product. What you're not going for is, oh my God, Zeke Heil. You're going the other way. I get it. Yeah. It's fine. It's a way to go, I guess.
But here's the thing, Kevin, a real quick anecdote there. Legion of Myth for 10 years had a very glaring error in our logo. I never noticed it for 10 years until somebody pointed it out, and then now I can't unsee it. It's not there anymore. But our L was backward in Legion because I had it wrap around, so I did each individual letter, and the L was backward. And 10 years after the fact, somebody caught it.
Wow.
No,
it happened, and again, visually it's just weird. And sometimes, in the example you just used, sometimes you're just so close to it, you don't catch it. I remember when I took in the Palladium Fantasy RPG, the very first edition, and I'm showing it to my printer. We're kind of flipping through the pages, and and I'm a terrible speller, as everyone already knows, but I had several people go through it, including Eric Wojcik, boy genius. And we flipped to this page and they're like, oh, your headline thief is spelled wrong. And I'm like, what? How can that be? And it was. We all missed it. It's this big freaking headline. And it's like, yeah, we need to fix that. And they're like, don't worry, we got it. We'll fix it for you. So, it's the way the world is. And then everything is, and it's the way human beings are. Just like, when we're writing stuff and you want to write happily and instead you just write happy, your mind kind of fills in that blank, or you're missing a the or an an or something. And it just, it's the way our brains are wired. Well, let's face it, we're funky creatures.
Well, what I want to say here, I've got a super chat I need to read, but I want to make sure we close out the TMNT stuff first. When can people expect is a wrong word. When can they possibly look forward to hearing some real substantive announcements about when they can expect the products? And now the reason why I'm asking this is because we're asked constantly on the Discord, hey, are they telling you when it's going to be done? Are they telling you when it's going to be done? I keep telling people, hey, expect an announcement first quarter. This is still first quarter of 2025, but be patient. But I don't have an answer for you. So is there an answer or a close semblance of an answer out there?
Yes, we will announce it in first quarter 2025. That's a great answer. We want it out as fast as we can. The books are pretty close to going to the printer at this point. But Chinese New Year's is coming up. All of China pretty much closes down for 2 or 3 weeks. You never know what shipping issues are going to be. You guys should hear something in the next month or so about and again, I was going to say an exact release date, but it'll be a tentative release date because you never know if there's a frickin' strike at the port or, a typhoon slows down all the shipping. You never frickin' know when you're shipping stuff in from a slow boat from China, that's where that saying kind of comes from. And, but it'll definitely be this year. We're telling people spring, but the spring's like 3 or 4 months, right? So, spring is what we're shooting for, man. And
okay.
That's fine.
All right.
And then in other news, before I forget, because I know I will, any retailers out there or viewers who are tight with their retailer, Palladium Books will be at the Gamma trade show in the end of February. And, we're happy to talk turtles and show off what we can. And
nice.
Take orders from retailers. And then we will also be, of course, at Gen Con, where we'll be selling turtle product and all kinds of other stuff. So that's cool. Something I want to point out is even if you're only skimming the weekly updates, if you get the weekly updates, check them out, because that's where you're going to learn about sales and release dates and new product coming out and stuff about videos like this show, and special products and partnerships with people like Frank at Studio 2, and I'm sure you will get into this a bit more, but we're actually doing an audio book for Nightbane products. Frank decided to start with the Dark Designs. I'm not sure why. You would think you would start with the core rulebook, but he wants to build up into the excitement of the core rulebook. The audio books they sound amazing. I wish he had longer clips in his Becker Kit crowdfunder, because he sent us like an hour's worth, and oh my God, it's amazing. It just, I'm listening to this stuff and I'm like, is this in my book?
So I listen to audiobooks pretty much every day. I don't have time to just sit and read. So when I'm back and forth to work, I listen to an audiobook. If I'm sitting at my computer working on something, I can't find some droning on YouTube channel or something, I'll throw an audiobook in. And hopefully, Kevin, I'm allowed to say this, but Kevin gave me access to about 30 minutes of it. And here's what I will say. As somebody who listens to audiobooks constantly, I've heard good ones, I've heard bad ones. This is definitely on the good end of the spectrum by far. I'm not going to lie. I was surprised because it's like, all right, it's going to be a gaming book. It's going to be, it's going to be kind of low quality, but I'm used to low quality. Let's see if it gets at least gets the message across in tone and feeling and intent. And boom, I was like, first of all, it was actually one of the quickest ones for me to get to. I struggle listening to one narrator, then going to another narrator, then going to another narrator. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. It usually takes me a few chapters before I'm like finally comfortable with a new reader. No, it took maybe 10 minutes, and I was like, this guy had me listening and understanding and feeling the tone of the book.
Yeah, me too. Exactly. When it first came on, I'm like, hey, my reaction was exactly yours because we didn't know exactly what to expect. And we kept hearing how it's professional narrators and, this kind of stuff, and it's going to be high quality, and you'll have some music and maybe sound effects and stuff here and there. And then I'm like, great. But I didn't know what to expect. And my reaction was exactly yours. It comes on and I'm like, hey, this sounds good. And I'm listening to the words and I'm like, man, this is really great stuff. Like I said, I was like, is this in one of our books? Is this actually our text? Because it's so weird to hear it in someone else's voice and with that kind of theatrical intonation.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is great. This is Mark Oberle's writing from, the book, and it's outstanding. So, and I was surprised. It really does give you kind of a whole, it makes the book feel brand new. I mean, we wrote, edited, published this thing, and I'm like, this sounds new. This is great. This sounds exciting. So I hope people go and at least check it out. Give it a try is my thing. I think audiobooks could be awesome for role-playing games. I thought that years ago. I had a voice actor reach out to me like 5 or 6 years ago and plant the idea in my head. And I thought, wow, yeah, that audiobooks for role-playing games, it's an untapped market area.
It's going to be interesting. So one of the things that I'm skeptical of, this isn't about you, this is just in general. The portion that you sent me only had one little minor aspect in there where it included, we'll just say, dice rolls. I'm interested to see how, when it comes to more mechanic-oriented read-through on there, how that works out for people who might want to use it for reference. Now, the one aspect that I got caught into, where I think it mentioned like roll a d4 for, if I'm remembering correctly, for something that was going on, was seamlessly, you could tell, I mean, that obviously this was written this way. It was seamlessly built into the paragraph. But I'm wondering on the more like bullet point stuff, like how that's going to come across. I hope it comes across well. And with as seamless as that one comment was, I was like, oh, he just talked to mechanic.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize. I was like, okay, that was cool. But it was the only portion that was really mechanically oriented of what I heard. So I'm still a little skeptical of that in terms of just, again, Jen, this isn't about Palladium. It's about any book being done in audio. I'm interested to see how that turns out, though. I've definitely backed it, by the way. But yeah, if it works out well, you've just added a new, because I hate online and I hate PDFs. I like having something tangible in my hand. But this audiobook might be my secondary medium.
Yeah. Well, and I'm wondering, will it eventually reach an audience that might not necessarily have picked up a book or a game book or said, what the hell's a role-playing game? But they see this and they give it a try and they go, hey, this sounds pretty cool. Because that's how you get lots of role players. You just talk to people about stuff. We had a guy who visited our office with his adult son. And they're like, so what would you say is a great introductory game at Palladium? And I said, Dead Rain. I said, don't let me sound weird, but zombies. And I started explaining the world and how our zombies work a little bit. And, the next thing I know, they're both buying copies and they're all excited about it. And I'm like, this is great. It just, because it's interesting stuff and it's different than other things. And I think when people start hearing about some of this stuff, they just naturally get excited and want to give it a try. So anyways, it's being produced not by Palladium Books. It's being produced by a third party company, and I think it'll be good. I think it'll be great.
I do have the link in the description. We're kind of pressed for time, so I'm not going to play all of this, or any of it. But it's on BackerKit. The link is in the description. This live stream is going to stay live. I'm not going to do anything with it after the fact, so it's going to stay up permanently. So you can check it out. Click on that link, and it talks about it here. I just want to remind folks, I listened to about 30 minutes of it. I backed it. And, I don't really have any Night Bane books, okay? But the themes and how the guy was narrating it gave me ideas for so many other things that I am kind of working on that I was like, gotta have this one. Take that how you will.
Yep. I agree. Thanks for mentioning that, Max. And in conjunction with that, Palladium Books has got a sale on our website for the various Nightbane games and a selection of like a handful of rifters that have some Nightbane material in them. And there's a similar sale on Drive-Thru RPG for PDFs for those who are into PDFs, unlike Max. And honestly, myself, I'm not really that into them either.
PDFs are great for our show, but for me in my hand, I've got to research this. But yeah, and by the way, Kevin and I did not talk about this before. Like, he's going right down the list here, things we're going to talk about. That's awesome. He's segueing for me. I love it. If you guys haven't checked out the History of Palladium Books YouTube channel, I'm still a couple of videos behind on that. Some really, really good stuff. If I were to compare, I think the Glitter Boys did an amazing job. This dives in even deeper. So you get a nice overview from the Glitter Boys. You can dive in even more with these videos here that Kevin's doing, and I think that honestly, I think that they're awesome.
Thanks.
I'm kind of mad that I'm behind.
Yeah, I think one of the more recent ones was so we did 2 for the Palladium Fantasy, and the second one talks about old ones. I think that went up last week, and oh my gosh, we got a ton of positive. Apparently, like anything else, I'm getting used to doing these interviews. I felt a little self-conscious at first doing the history because I'm talking about my company and the stuff I love, and I'm thinking, do people really want to hear this stuff? I'm like a fanboy talking about my favorite game, and they're all my favorite games, and it's like, but people are loving it, and I really think we started to pick up steam and really kind of get into the flow with the Palladium Fantasy stuff. And yeah, it's fun stuff. And then it was JM's idea to talk about the Defilers as well. Tell some of the key Defiler stories. The Defilers is my original game group that I developed my game system with, and kind of cut my chops learning how to role play and GM and all that kind of jazz. So they're pretty fun. Apparently, we had a lot of positive feedback on those too, and then they're kind of out there. Some of them are pretty crazy, but they're fun, and I'm glad people are enjoying them. That's why we're doing it.
Yeah, I think people even like when you come here, people want to get into your brain a bit about like, why did you make this decision? And I a lot of times see why questions as being negative. But it's not that. It's like, no, why did you think this? Or how did you come up with this? Or what happened over here? What inspired this? And you come to find out that it's from Defilers or it's from a comic book or something else. You're like, oh my God, I didn't even see how that could come together like that. Yes.
Yeah, I think it was, I don't think it was you guys. I think it was a Glitter Boy episode where they're asking about Doc Reed. Mm-hmm. And where did the idea for Dr. Reed come from? And I said, well, it's inspired by the Lone Ranger, John Reed, the Lone Ranger. And they're like, what? I never realized that. And it was pretty fun. And yeah, I mean, that's why I tell people, whether you're a game designer or a game master trying to set up a game, do a new adventure campaign, draw your ideas from everything, especially the stuff you love. I mean, don't just, well, you can just steal it because you're using it for your own personal use. When I was running stuff, I had Doctor Who show up. I had Darth Vader show up. I had Killraven from Marvel's War of the Worlds show up. It's kind of fun to drop those things in. But, take your ideas from whatever makes you happy and gets you excited, because that's going to make you write a really exciting, fun game or adventure for somebody. And yeah, don't limit yourself. Just grab ideas from everything. A conversation you overheard in a restaurant. If it works, it works. Take it, use it, build on it.
All right. I don't know if there's anything else in here we need to cover. He's here today. Check out the Glitter Boys and what's the other one? Real Play Games podcast. I haven't looked at that yet, but I think those are Let's Plays, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't watch Let's Play. They all bore me, even the ones I'm in. Is there any significant update with Valley of the Pharaohs?
Just that it's very interesting, and for the completist out there who likes to have everything related to Palladium. I mean, it reprints a bunch of my art and floor plans and stuff, along with other people's stuff. It's basically the 40th, super expanded 40th anniversary edition of our original little Valley of the Pharaohs boxed game. It's been expanded by the original author, Matthew Ballant, who did the majority of our weapon books. And it's fun. It's interesting. I mean, I think the rules, there's some cool concepts in them. I don't think they're my particular cup of tea, and they're not Palladium game system. It's Matt's own creation. There's lots of tables and things, which I'm not a big table guy. But the actual writing, the actual history, the mythology, there's a truckload of spells in there that are pretty cool. All stuff you can easily grab, the creatures and the Egyptian mythology you can grab and drop into Rifts Africa or Palladium Fantasy or any of that stuff. So it's a fun resource, and it's kind of a bit of history as well.
And there's one area right there where Kevin and I have a difference, and shows how games can be for different people. I like tables in my games. I miss some games that have tables, Prime Directive, even the old D&D tables. Now, not too many of them, but I do. I say that because we actually had an episode where people were just railing on tables. Slow down gameplay. It's the worst horrible thing ever. I'm like, it's just tables, man.
Yeah, and a lot of times if a table is done right, it increases the speed of gameplay.
Yeah,
you don't have to do math. No math. Although, I hate that people complain about math. I mean, it's not like, quadratic equation nonsense in games. It's plus minus most of the time. Jesus. Anyway, it takes away that.
No, and Sean loves tables as well, and you'll be seeing more tables, very nicely done ones in TMNT and Other Strangeness, as well as other upcoming Palladium products.
Nice. Well, and it's funny because a good table, especially understanding Palladium's writing, a good table where you read it in the narrative aspect of it to understand, we'll just say, more of the nuance and thought process behind it, but then the quick reference of a table, that's a great balance right there. Let's see, where are we? And a lot of books on sale. We kind of mentioned that already in Drive-Thru RPG. Palladium Collectibles at Kevin's Online. So we actually haven't talked about this in a while. I had a link for it in my favorites. I don't see it there right now. But do you want to talk about this real quickly? Or?
Sure. It's just, stuff that I've collected over the years, or odds and ends that, fall into Palladium's hands that, we can't really put up in our own online store because there's only one or three of them. And I put them up in there. And
Wait,
that
are there any 1950s science set that has thorium in it?
No.
Cesium? No? Oh, well, then I don't care.
Stop trying to kill Kevin.
How am I going to be a proper supervillain if I can't buy radioactive isotopes online? What the hell?
I know. I tried to get some, but it's hard to get.
So like federally regulated, whatever.
But we put up artwork sometimes. I also got, I used to be a crazy toy collector. So, some of my collectible toys are up there, Star Wars and superhero toys, and occasionally Robotech stuff. So,
Oh, and for our younger viewers, no, I'm not kidding. You could buy for your child a science kit that had radioactive elements in it.
Yeah, what's
in
it
the
going to do?
1950s and early 60s. You could do that.
What's the worst that can happen?
it's science, man.
Right?
Hey,
All
cancer
right.
is part of science. Shut up.
Hopefully that gives people a good rundown of what some of the things. Again, this wasn't even the big write-up that happened a couple weeks ago of all the things going on in the background. I'm normally the type of person who cancels mailing lists the second I get on them because they just spam up my my email, and I don't generally like them or care for the most part. But these are awesome if you're a Palladium fan. If you want to follow TMNT instead of bugging me on the Discord, please come to our Discord and bug me. But if you want these kind of updates and see what's happening, by all means, you should join that mailing list.
Well, and that report you keep mentioning, it is available on our website where we archive the weekly updates. So it's there for people who want to go back and see it. Yeah, I want to say it was like the January 9th weekly update, I think, or 10th. It was called a special report, the future of Palladium Books, and it talks about different people we're hoping to bring in and are looking to bring in, and some of our new partners, licensing partners, and I think it mentions how our long-awaited new website may be coming soon and that kind of stuff. So
I know
it's
a lot of people are excited about that one because one of the things I get yelled at for, and I don't know why they're coming to me for this, is how Palladium doesn't sell PDFs along with the physical copy on the website. I'm like, don't yell at me. Stop it. Well, it's not fair. I'm like, I buy the same books you do, guys. So looking forward to an updated website. I do want that Glitter Boy video, though. That said, let's hit some super chats here, and then we'll get into our topic du jour. Sorry, Mondohan, for waiting this long for this one, because I know it's a $20 super chat, but I think you'll be okay, and you understand. Mondohan says, looking forward to Yinsloth expeditions. There we go. Hell yeah, baby. There you go. $20 read that I failed on.
Yep. Good job.
CPK says, a boom gun rocks. I think we got something to stick because people in chat are saying they like the boom gun thing.
That's not the only one.
Jeff says, What is Palladium's convention schedule for 2025? You talked a little about Gemma and Gen Con. Anything else?
We will be, so let me think if I can do it in chronological order. There's always I assume they're going to do one again this year. They've done it for 2 or 3 years. There's a little Ann Arbor, Michigan gaming event. The first one was called like a Game Designers Expo, and then I think they changed it to a game convention, which it really kind of is and isn't. It's always sometime in April, and Sean and I have gone to that. It's held at the main library in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Brett, is that the one you took me to like 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was either that one or the crap.
Library in Ann Arbor sounds
Southeast
familiar.
Michigan something or other, or Southern Michigan something or other gaming convention. It was a comic / gaming convention.
Mm-hmm. It was good. That's where we played Paranoia. It was a fun time. People should go.
Yeah, they had a lot of comics. They had a lot of games.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So we'll be at the Gamma Trade Show. That's the end of February. Then we'll probably do that little Ann Arbor game event. Sean and I may be there as just people hanging out and having fun, but we'll probably be at Chaosium Con. That's also usually held in April. We're friends with the people who own and run Chaosium. They're good folks, so they always give us free admission, and so we go and have a nice time. And then I think it'll just be Gen Con and then Granite State Comic Con in New Hampshire, or the New Hampshire area anyways.
I need to start a Southern convention here in Alabama somehow.
There you go. and sometimes we drop in one or two others, but mainly, conventions take up so much time.
Yeah.
And we're so behind on our books all the time, we'd rather be working and banging out books than, spending a week at a convention and then we're behind another week or two because there's always prep time and then recovery time and
right. And who's got time to go to the role-playing Alabama Jamma? Nobody. And yes, that's mine. You can't have it.
Well, there goes the Alabama convention, folks. I was going to set one up, but now I can't.
Alabama Jamma. You say it right.
And then, yes, we are considering, because we get this question a lot lately, because it's been about 3 years, I think, since we've done the last Palladium open house.
Ooh.
But we're considering doing an open house or some kind of mini con in the next year or two. So I think I might have mentioned this before, that next year feels like it's ideal because Palladium would be 45 years old, and it'll also be my 70th birthday. And just feels like something we should do, but don't know. We have to make sure. It's more important to get product out than to throw a fun long week event. So that's what we're focused on, is getting product. Everything was log jammed, and we had all these big plans, and then stuff happens. The turtle license was an opportunity we could not pass up, and then. Kathy's passing, that was out of our hands completely, and was clobbered us all. And it's like, gosh darn it, this year's the year we get caught up and release a ton of stuff. So that's the plan. Whether we can succeed at that, we'll see. But that's the plan.
All right. Over on Rumble, I can't put it on the screen. Grizzly Beardo says, TMNT and Other Strangeness was the start of my RPGing or origin story. Basically mine too. Even more than D&D. Thank you, Kevin, so much for the hard work you're doing to bring it back. I cannot wait.
Well, I'll take credit for that, but it's Sean's doing the heavy lifting. So,
Sean's not here. Look, he escaped the country. He's not going to be allowed back in.
The heck with him, right?
And there are a lot of reasons people go to Thailand. A lot.
Taiwan.
Taiwan? Oh, there's less reasons why people go to Taiwan. I would not be shocked if he came back with a significant other. I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked.
It's funny. My grandpa said that when I went to Japan. Guess what happened?
You did. You came back with a wife. Yeah.
All right. Let's. Doc Flamingo says, given what they put in food now, a little radium is nothing to get worried about.
That's true. That's true. I'd rather have a little radium than a little high fructose corn syrup.
I don't know about that.
CBK 4791 says key element in smoke detectors is a type of radioactive
materials.
Oh, radioactive. I don't know why I can never do that. Radioactive materials. In my opinion, Heathen Dog is more of a red mercury kind of villain.
Hey, you know what? If you can distill it, make it stronger, I'll buy it.
You know what? I like the name Red Mercury.
Red Mercury as a villain. Yeah.
I'm stealing that. Saying it right here. That's mine.
You heard it here. When we take him to court, I got video evidence.
Right, you got it right here. And I know I see it right now. I'm remembering the Heroes Unlimited book, the kid hero called Speed Metal. The evil version is Red Mercury. There you go.
There you go.
All right. All right, folks. We're going to dive into our topic. Thank you very much for the super chats. We will get to them as we can, but again, we got a little bit of time constraint here, and we got a lot of questions we want to ask. Now, Ethan Dog already mentioned this, but I'm going to remind folks in case they skip forward to this part of the video that today's objective is not to tell you every rule in Palladium games, or maybe even any rule. We don't know. It's to give you things to think about. It's food for thought. Ideas you might want to consider for your game, or how maybe you can think of SDC, MDC, hit points, recovery, healing, insanities in a little bit different manner, or maybe you think the Palladium rules are perfectly cover this exactly right. So it's going to be more conceptual than anything else. And of course, to just, we want to dig a couple of nuggets out of Kevin's brain and see how they come out when it comes to the Palladium Megaverse. So the first segment, if you want to call it that, is we're going to start with SDC. It's the basic. It's, you're getting into Palladium Fantasy. It's kind of the mundane. It's my favorite. So we're going to get to SDC. And believe it or not, I actually don't have a lot of SDC questions. I just have a really big general one. Okay. And that's, in your view, how do players effectively use SDC, and this is on a role-playing level, to reflect a character's resilience under stress apart from just tracking damage?
Well, I mean, it's another layer of their physicality. It was inspired by the fact that in the 80s, Kevin Long got me into boxing. And they're not doing boxing, watching boxing matches. And because I'm a wimp, so there's no secret there. But, and it just really struck me how, if Mike Tyson punched any of us in the stomach, we're going on over, bending over and going, because he just punched us. Where, we could probably kick him in the guts, and he would just turn around angrily and kick our butts, because they've got that extra level of, I'm putting in all this work, all this energy, and it just makes people stronger, tougher.
An extra level of durability.
Durability for sure, and endurance, but especially durability. Durability is really the word, Heathen Dog. That was good. And I just really liked that aspect. Especially if you're playing a game where you've got ordinary people as characters as well. You've got that guy who is an athlete. He's got that little extra special advantage. And in the case of like fantasy and stuff, again, some characters are just more physical than others. So they have that extra bonus durability because, they do take athletics or they do take bodybuilding, and, now they're stronger, tougher, able to take more damage.
Yeah. I mean, I always, just like the whole boxing reference, I always thought of SDC like that. I mean, SDC damage is by and large superficial. It's bruising, it's minor cuts, stuff like that. And the more muscle you have on your body, that's more cushion to your more vital organs and bones. All of that has to be beaten through first before you actually get to the meat and potatoes of your dim mock. Well, no, the dim mock works no matter what. But if you want to like really beat on someone's liver, well, their muscles are going to defeat you unless you can defeat them first. That's how it works. So I've always explained to it like that. I mean, it is you've built up your body with all this extra mass, and just like in all physics, if you want to do damage to something, you have to calculate its mass into the equation. And the more massive someone is, the more flesh you have between you and your target, the harder you have to punch to actually get through, or the more times you have to punch to actually get through all of that to do some actual legitimate damage, which in this case would be hit points. Hit points are the real legitimate damage.
Yep, absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense for punching and so forth. But now, if we start adding in knives and bullets and things that do rip the meat to the soft little fleshy parts. So how can the interplay between SDC loss and hit point loss build tension, ensuring that each that SDC loss is meaningful, maybe not as meaningful as hit point loss, but each stage along that damage process of SDC hit points feels meaningful.
Well, it sounded like you wanted to jump right in, Heathen Dog, so go ahead.
Well, yeah, I did. Like I said, I was reading the Rips book on healing and damage and stuff like that, and there are some optional and non-optional rules in the Rips Ultimate book to make SDC damage a little more meaningful. Meaning that if you are actually shot, like second or third degree burns or something like that, like a higher level burn, or stabbed or stuff like that, if you don't get trained attention on it, you will still lose one SDC and or hit point if you run out of SDCs every minute until it's actually addressed. But For stuff like gunshot wounds, you need a professional. Not just you, like I got first aid. No, you need a nurse, an actual field medic, or a doctor to stop you from bleeding out. That means it makes hospitals a whole lot more important. It makes your psychic healer a whole lot more important. It makes magical healing obviously a whole lot more important. But it's something that you can turn into a decision tree after combat. Because hey, do we chase the bad guy that's retreating, or do we get Bill to a hospital because he was shot in the shoulder and he's starting to bleed out? And none of us here is a doctor or an EMT or whatever, so we can't actually help that.
Yeah, I mean, you see it in movies and TV shows, and I reference movies and TV shows rather than in real life, where it's like, oh, we have to stop the bleeding, otherwise our teammate or just got gut shot or stabbed is going to bleed out, and quick, call for an ambulance. Absolutely. Now I think because of superhero movies and video games, that kind of thing, people tend to play like their character is Wolverine.
Yeah.
And until they're down to like one hit point, they're like, oh wait, am I in trouble?
Yeah, man, you're in trouble.
And I'm as guilty as that as anyone from time to time. But it's if you're trying to play a game and you're trying to be a bit more realistic and you're looking for drama, that should be, healing and damage should be a consideration, and getting in and making sure your teammate doesn't die. It should be an important kind of thing. So yeah, maybe the bad guy gets away because you have to stop and help this guy, or you have to rush him over to, the church that you guys encountered, 2 miles down the road, and hope that there's someone there with medical capability.
It's even more than that, because a lot of the heroes, especially in Heroes Unlimited, they will have tons of SDC, tons of it. They'll start with 250. Like I lose one every minute. I'm not letting the bad guy get away. I got time.
Yeah, of course.
But here's the problem. During your fight, this innocent woman and her child got hit by a rock. She's bleeding out. She's got 5 SDC.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do now?
Yep.
You let her die? No. You're gonna get her to the hospital.
Well, hopefully.
One of the things we talked about on Friday, it wasn't related to this directly, but it kind of came up, was I think style of game also matters. And while I know that the Palladium rules themselves are pretty much universal, maybe some quibbles here and there, if I'm running an After the Bomb game, I'm not going to run it the same way as I would a Heroes Unlimited game. Heroes Unlimited game, you are superheroes. Even if you're kind of lower powered, you are superheroes. You're going to have things that help your survival out. Whether it's a ton more SDC or much more access to medical care. Because after the bomb, what's your medical care? Some random dude with some holistic medicine that you hope isn't shyster, right?
Some valerian root and a dirty rag.
Right? Because I lean towards, I think realism's a bad word, but I lean towards grittier type games. So I struggle in games that are superheroic because there doesn't, to me, seem to feel that same edge of like, I don't know if I want to get into this combat. But let's be fair, that type of game isn't for everyone. And that's why I look at that, the balance between hit points and SDC is nobody should ever want to be shot. I don't care who you are. You should never want to be shot. That's a 9 mil. It does 2d6 damage. I've got 200 SDC. I'm fine. Something about just doesn't sit right with me. like I get it if you're actively defending, fighting and defending. I just make the assumption you don't want to get shot. But whether it's simultaneous attack, can you do that ranged weapons? Yeah, I think you can. Whether it's simultaneous attack or somebody just be like, I take it, I can handle it, based on the numbers, it kind of drives me crazy a little bit. That's why when I look at this with the SDC, how can we make SDC not irrelevant. That's it's built into the game. It's part of the game universe. But just that relationship between SDC and hit points, a little more meaningful than just, okay, I can take a 9mm. By the way, it's one of the reasons I use the compendium of contemporary weapons, because I love the penetration value and all the little effects in there that happen.
Yeah, you may be seeing more of that in some of our games, because we like that too. And really, this is where it kind of gets back into everyone's style of game mastering and what works for them and their players. I don't have a problem if, everyone's basically Wolverine and can take a shitload of damage. That's fine. But especially if you want to play a grittier game, and even in a superhero game, in one of our books, I introduced blood loss because of the very thing you just said, Max, where I had a guy tell me, well, I've got 200 SDC, so someone lobs in a grenade, I don't care. I just jump right on top of it. And I'm like, your character's going to be blown to smithereens. And he's like, but I got 200 SDC, and then I've got like 92 hit points, and the grenade only does. And I'm like, but that's like the area effect.
Yeah,
If
you're
jumping on a
concentrating it
fucking
into your
grenade,
body. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to stand up. Well, you're not going to stand up, but let's say your superhero stands up, his gut's going to be gone, right? You see his spine, and then he's going to fall over and die in like 2 seconds.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment because I agree with you 100%. What do you say to the player who says, yeah, but the rules didn't say that, and I should have known that before I made this maneuver?
Well, I think some of that's just common sense. Come on, guys. And
we've all seen those players, though.
That's true.
Yeah, there is no person on the planet. I don't care how tough you are. Mike Tyson in his prime, Andre the Giant, doesn't matter. If you lay on a grenade to save other people, you expect to die.
Yes.
And if you don't expect to die, well, there's two things going to happen. Soon you'll be dead, but you'll be dead in a delusional fashion.
Well, and you're saying how can you make SDC and hit points more dramatic and more important? I kind of use things. I always point out when someone goes through their SDC, I point out that, okay, you're now eating into your hit points. And this is more like Heathen Dog said, now we're talking critical damage, or not necessarily critical, but serious damage.
Mm-hmm.
And, this isn't your, oh, shucks, ma'am, it's just a flesh wound. I always love it in movies where it's like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just a through and through. A bullet went through your body, punched in one side, went out the other. It's a big deal.
Usually with a bigger hole in the backside.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there are times when your character is strong enough and badass enough to where you can be like in the movie Predator, like, I ain't got time to bleed. Stuff like that, where you have a whole bunch of SDC, you're bleeding out 1 minute, we're fighting, I got stuff to do. I'll handle this later. And then there's a time when you get shot in the shoulder by an M16, your shoulder almost completely comes off, but it's a through and through. Yeah, through and through your life. That's what happened. You are now dying. You are actively dying. There's no more fighting you, brother. No more fight. It's time now to stop the bleeding and concentrate on that. You have to have, and that depends on the game you're playing. If you're playing Recon, you do that. If you're playing Heroes Unlimited, well, maybe there's something more important than you dying right now, and you have to make that decision, Or if you're playing Nightbane, and there is no help for you because there is no support for giant nightmare beings, no matter how good they are, So you have to probably retreat before you bleed out to find somebody or something to staunch the flow of blood. Like you have to make decisions depending on the genre of the game you're playing, and they have to fit within that frame, or you're not role playing your character correctly.
Well, and that's where the game master needs to step in. Like, I will remind them that, yeah, you can do this. You can run and fight and kick ass and do all this stuff. But I'll also say, roll me a d6 or 2d6 for blood loss every round. That just kind of reminds them that, oh, gee,
You're now on a clock.
I'm, yeah. And, for those first 3 or 4 rounds, maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe even 5 or 6 rounds.
But after that, you're going to start to fade.
Well, I was going to save this question for later, but I think it's a really good time to bring it up right now, because when you have those injuries, again, not trying to use reality necessarily, but more on the consequence side, you have lingering effects. So, and Palladium does have very simplistic rules. I don't say that in a bad way. I mean, they're really easy to follow for lingering effects of losing all your SDC, losing a lot of your hit points, and so forth. In my experience, that's the problem, is I don't see game masters use them. And so yeah, one of the things I like in character, there's a personal preference, I'm not expecting you to like it, is I look at a hero or a veteran in terms of a deadly role-playing game as somebody who's made it to age 35 and still has most of his feet. Look, I work for the Air Force, but I was in the Air Force. Combat controllers don't make it out of that line of work without breaking a bunch of bones, twisting a lot of things, and having a list of VA benefits that long, right? I see the same thing in games as well. I think it's a mark of heroism. It's a mark of being a veteran. Be like, yeah, I lost 2 to my, and I'm using game terms intentionally here. I lost 2 to my physical prowess. I lost 1 to my physical endurance. Lost 2 to my physical beauty. My speed is at a quarter, but I'm still out there fighting the good fight. How about you? I like those lingering effects. I do, but I see most game masters hand wave them. So. Well,
I mean, you can understand. Players don't like to...
Players are wrong in this one.
Well, no, I understand. I didn't say they were right. I just said they do not like to have to suffer long-term consequences for their actions.
Look, Brett, remember Chris? He only had one good character. What happened with that one good character? He lost his arm, and I gave him negatives to his dexterity for that. He happily played it, and his character was memorable because of that.
Yeah.
And when I say players are wrong, I'm not saying you're wrong in wanting a style of player or whatever. My point being is that, oh, great, now my character's got a penalty. Yeah, this one's done. I just don't understand that mentality. So, Kevin, the real question based on that is, how do you feel that long-term damage or trauma can enhance the depth of role-playing for a character, but also what pitfalls should you avoid?
Well, I mean, I think, like you were saying, it can very much enhance the character because it gives him character. And now it makes that player have to think more on his feet and maybe prepare more because he is impaired. He does have a handicap. And how does he overcome that? How does he compensate for that? And that can be really good. I mean, hey, I'm one of these guys who I believe you should just randomly roll up your character and stick with those rolls. And I don't have a problem maybe changing 1 or 2 because, gosh, golly, I really wanted to play a knight or I wanted to play this character or that character, and I need to have a minimum of this and these 2, these 2 attributes. Fine, but some of the most memorable characters are characters who were very average or below average. One of Julius's great characters was this big ass, strong as a moose and incredible speed, a wolfen, but his IQ was like 6, and he called himself Fang and he played him very innocent, not necessarily stupid, but there was a very you could easily manipulate this character and stuff if the other players weren't watching out for him, and this character was great. His favorite weapon turned out to be this big ass oak chair because they got ambushed and their weapons were knocked away, and he grabbed this chair and he defeats he was making better rolls with this chair than he had been with his magic sword or battle axe. And so his character decided this is my new weapon. and he would
Hey,
like
it works.
attach it to his back and carry it around and clobber people with it. And it was funny and kind of cute and endearing because the
And
whole
he's
group
always
loved
got
the
a chair.
character.
I mean, that's just smart. IQ is 6. That doesn't sound right.
But he did. And Julius was a great player, so the character would only contribute things that he thought his character might actually notice or actually think of.
Well, let's be fair. Even an intelligence or IQ of 3 is still technically functional, or you wouldn't be allowed in the game.
It's true. But and I've had characters who were just physically wimps, and so I chose a thief or I chose a wizard or something, and okay, let me use my abilities to the best of my ability, and it challenges you as a player to not just be, I've got my physical strength of 29 and my speed of 23 and my my dexterity is kind of low, it's only 20. I've never been a big fan of Superman for those same reasons. I like characters that have flaws and weaknesses. So I like Captain America and Daredevil and Spider-Man and Batman, those kind of characters, because there's stuff going on with them. So it can be a lot of fun, and I think that's a lot of the appeal, I think, of Beyond the Supernatural and Dead Rain, because even though we have special, in the case of Beyond the Supernatural, there's psychics who are reasonably powerful against the supernatural, and there will be magic characters as well. But you get to play ordinary people in extraordinary situations, and obviously, in their own regard, in their own sense, they are exceptional also, because by just accepting that I'm going to fight supernatural evil, that makes you not Joe average. But I think that's part of the fun of it, because you're not playing these super tough badasses, and you actually have to think. I think that's the other appeal of Beyond the Supernatural too, because unlike a fantasy game or a science fiction game or Rifts, something post-apocalyptic where anything goes. You think this guy's a bad guy, you track him to his lair, you kick in his house's door, you rough up the servants to get information, you beat the snot out of the presumed bad guy, and then you leave, and there's usually not many consequences. In our modern setting, you can't do that. You're going to get arrested. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
And you try to tell someone, but the guy's a vampire or a demon, or he's the head of a cult, and they're like,
right,
off the psych ward, we got another one.
Fitty one, fitty.
It's, and I love that it puts the players in a situation where, okay, I really have to think about this now. I have to be clever.
Yeah, they have to come at it sideways.
And that's the thing about injuries with a character, is now they have to compensate. They're not perfect. They're not Superman. They're Superman with a bad leg or a missing arm or one eye, or who's been disfigured in a way that people look at him like one of the monsters, and yet he still perseveres. That's one of the things I loved about the X-Men as a kid. that outcast who still fights for everybody, even though people fear him or are scared of him. So there's all kinds of great things you can do if your character gets impaired or injured. Although, again, role-playing is very personal.
Mm-hmm.
So some players really lean into that and have no problems with it, and they play beautifully. And then others have trouble with that. And that's where, depending on what the situation is, what the setting is, I'll let people who are struggling with that get a bionic arm. They still have maybe that stigma because it looks mechanical, but especially guys will go, "Oh, but I look cool. I'm a badass. I got a mechanical arm. I'm
but every
I'm
single
Winter
woman
Soldier."
and child who sees you screams in terror and runs away. There's going to be consequences for that. You're just not thinking of it.
Well, there's also the point where you transition from, I used to be that guy on the front line, and maybe some of the other people, you're looking at the man who used to do X, Y, and Z, but the up and coming kids, got to challenge them, or maybe or opposite, respects them and so forth, to give the player/player character, some of that respect. We remember what you did, but you do kind of, you're gimpy. You can't run anymore. You can't. But you can still do other things because you're still 8th, 9th level. You still have a bunch of skills available to you. Just transition the character to a different type of role.
Absolutely. Just like real life.
Yeah, right? I don't want to play real life. So
Right.
Continuing on, what tips do you have for game masters who want to highlight the emotional impact of injuries so characters aren't just treating hit points as simple numbers or lingering injuries as just simple numbers?
Well, again, I tend to, I like to nudge people. I don't like to make people do anything unless it's, they're playing totally out of character, and then it's like, hey. But again, I think it's really good. That's why I incorporated insanities in my game, because insanities is usually a reflection of some kind of physical or emotional or both trauma. And I think people, bizarrely enough, really understand that with insanities and really gravitate to it. That worked out really well. But yeah, that's one of the main reasons I have insanities in the game. And again, it's not necessarily this horrible negative. It's not like a brand of dishonor or something. It's, hey, people suffer trauma and they get messed up, and so now you're afraid of the dark, or you're afraid of dead things. Duh, you probably should have been afraid of dead things that walk in the first place. Maybe you wouldn't have that insanity.
Yeah, I wouldn't really call that a phobia. I just call that common sense. Yeah, common sense on that one.
But I do that. I will also sometimes muck around with their alignment, because I find if you're telling a good story, a strong story, and you get strong role players, they'll kind of lean into it anyways. And if they start to get bitter because I'm out for revenge, I'll do a timeout and say, hey, that you can do whatever you're planning on doing, but it's going to affect your alignment. You're going to go from, scrupulous to anarchist, or you're talking about killing someone who you're not absolutely sure is guilty. Maybe you're dropping down to one of the evil alignments. Especially if they're into torture and a bunch of other stuff. I always try to point out that, you can go down this road, but your alignment's changing. And, I really play my alignments in my game. I'm really fastidious about that, because in my mind, that's your moral code and your character's compass. And if you're, messing with that, if you're breaking your moral code, there are definitely consequences. And one of them is you become evil. And you'd be surprised how many people, when they're actually hit with the label of evil, they don't want to be that.
So suddenly every dog, cat, psychic, magician casts a single spell or smells you, and then they don't like you anymore.
There you go.
You got to deal with that too.
Yeah, I generally don't like alignments. I just don't, but I love Palladium's alignments, and I mean that. I'm trying to find a way of stealing it without having copyright or trademark issues or anything, but because I do agree that there has to be some focus on the character's moral code. Otherwise, almost every player turns into something that's chaotic neutral. Whatever's most expedient at that time, that's what they're going to do instead of playing a character. So I understand the purpose behind it, and Palladium's is the one and only alignment system I like.
Thanks.
We're going kind of backward here, but I think is awesome. And so we went from STC now to lingering effects. We're going to backtrack a little bit to convalescence and recovery. What methods do you have, or are you aware of, that the game master can use to make recovery an integral part of the character's journey rather than just simple downtime?
Well, again, it depends on the situation and the setting. Um, if it's a mage, he can maybe spend some of that time also practicing his magic and studying this or that. Maybe the character has to take a seat back, and because he's back at camp, he becomes privy to things. As a game master, I'm feeding him information that the rest of the group wouldn't know because they're off adventuring. But he's here and he notices this or that. And okay, how do you respond to that? And if the guy, the player says, well, I'm going to look into this, or I want to know more about this, and then I'll give him more information. And there's lots of different things you can do with recovery. You can introduce love interests. You can introduce, all kinds of different things.
Yeah, but you know that most players see like, oh, I'm gonna be healing for 2 weeks, so I'm out for that amount of time. It's like, no, there's so much that can happen during the. Some of it can be inspired by the player character. Some of it can be forced on the player character by the game master.
I mean, how many movies and books have you seen, heard of, or read where the main character had this horrible accident before the movie started and met his wife during physical therapy?
Or the hospital's taken over by terrorists.
Yeah, or something, whatever. Yes, all that stuff can happen during that
We're gonna have a Die Hard
downtime to
no, seriously, yeah,
to increase the either the role playing of the character or the backstory of the character or introduce a love interest to affect the character moving forward, stuff like that. All that stuff can happen during downtime, and a lot of people hand wave downtime, and I hate that. I hate it.
Yeah, me too. But also don't make it interesting. That's part of the problem too.
Yeah.
I was going to say that. So the thing is, as the game master, as the director of our adventures, and really certainly the plot outliner, if not the actual writer of our adventures, you need to see every situation as a potential opportunity. And how can you best exploit that opportunity? And you just kind of go with the flow. Think about it. Okay, so the guy's in the hospital, and yeah, what happens? And maybe he's not even the character that who's convalescing. Maybe his partners come and visit and say, "Hey, good to see you." And as they're exiting the hospital, they notice something suspicious. Or the guy in convalescence notices something suspicious, and of course, you're a hero and nosy, so you're going to go investigate and see what's going on. And yeah, you find out there's mutant animal experiments being done in the basement, or bionic experimentation, or all kinds of other weird shit. They've got a freaking alien from a crashed flying saucer.
Yeah, they're draining the bile from the alien's body to create some super healing serum that you have been the recipient of. So not only do you have a legal dilemma, you now have a moral dilemma, because you have been filled with this alien go-go juice, and you
haven't, and you don't know the side effects yet.
Yeah, you don't know the side effects, but even if there are no side effects, you have been substantially helped by someone else's torture.
And by the way, this ironically, and I'm assuming you guys are not aware of this, because I don't remember you guys being big comic book guys. That, by the way, is the current storyline in Detective Comics with Batman, where they're playing up the fact that Bruce Wayne is getting older and he's been shot and stabbed and fallen out of buildings, 20 times, 200 times, 300, 2,000 times.
Yeah, lots
and
of times.
He's getting a little slower and achy, and some associate of his, some old buddy, has some new super serum that kind of regenerates people. But I mean, it's all under the medical context, and the following the subplot, it sure looks like that this treatment is based on the blood of these teenagers are being killed by some psycho vigilante, and in fact his friend might be that psycho vigilante or villain. We haven't hasn't been revealed yet, kind of thing. But that basic outline you just did is in a comic book right now, major national comic book.
Well, he may have read it, but it wouldn't be me.
They've also touched on that before with the cartoon Batman Beyond, where Batman ended up getting a biomechanical augmenting suit because he was getting slower, weaker, and he couldn't hang as long, so he got the suit, and then he finally retired when his heart just couldn't take it anymore. The suit couldn't augment his body enough to stop his heart from having a heart attack from the excitement. So that's when he finally had to pull back. But instead of using, drugs or, the souls of teenagers or whatever, which, I'm gonna let you know right now, I'm not completely against that. but he went the other way. He went the technological route instead, which I could see Batman doing. He did it with Superman every time. He made a bat suit, right, to fight Superman, because you don't fight Superman without 17 inches of titanium between you and Kal-El's fist or foot or whatever, so yeah, I get that one. But yeah the whole go-go juice from a shady person probably not going to end well.
Hey, I've told this story I think before, but I want to mention it because it's a good one, and as a game master it caught me off guard. This was during my Defiler fantasy game. And at some point in the town, this little girl would always be waiting for them. And her and her parents, they grew and sold flowers. And she'd always have a flower for them when they came into town, after some big adventure. And it was just part of the routine. And one day we go through our regular adventure. And they come into town, and I just forgot, as the game master, I forgot to have the kid there and hand them a flower. And someone says, "Hey, where's the little girl?" And I'm like, "What?" And he said, "The little girl always gives us a flower. She's not there today." I said, No, she's not." Well, why not? I said, "You don't know." And I'm just going, man. I'm just going.
Everyone, this is what Kevin looks like when he's covering.
There you go. Everything's an opportunity. Yep. And so I saw this as an opportunity to adventure, because they're like, "Well, can we check on her?" And I'm like, "You don't even know her name." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we don't know her name. We don't know anything about her family." So they start to investigate. And I said, "Let's pick this up next." It turned into a whole night adventure. What happened to the little girl? They had to track down who she was, where her family is.
What'd you do to her?
I had her kidnapped by a coven. She was going to be sacrificed,
Yep.
And
the usual.
The usual. Her and a few other kids had gone missing, and of course the Defilers, find them, and it's a much bigger plot for some evil something. And one of the main guys, one of the main characters, who was like one of the de facto leaders of the group, had a phobia about witches, hated witches, and was always hunting.
Not a phobia. Which is bad.
Well, you're right. It was more of an obsession.
Obsession with which is bad. I'm with them. I'm on board. I'm on board that train.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying.
I'm with him and Conan, which is suck.
There you go.
All right. So the last question that I have with regard to healing and recovery, and I just want to let folks know out there a couple things. First of all, I am reading the chats. I'm sorry we're not putting a lot on the screen, but time is what time is, and if it's not super chat, it's probably not going to go up today. My apologies. Not trying to be a jerk. We're just in time crunch. But also a lot of great comments. Thank you very much for the people who are in chat. Also, I do have some Discord questions I'm going to try to get to, but again, I'm not guaranteeing. We're going to see how much time we have for that, because some of you also have some healing and recovery questions out there as well. But the last one I'm going to ask for right now is what storytelling opportunities open up when the party doesn't have access to immediate healing, whether magical, psionic, technological, whatever, and how does that shape the feel of a campaign? I'll leave it there.
Oh, it can be awesome, because if you have a fallen comrade or a fallen NPC, say that little girl was hurt, and now you've got to take care of her, and now you can't travel as quickly as you were because, she's got to be treated more gingerly. and you need to make sure you get her food and something that's appropriate for, you know, her condition, and make sure you change the bandages, and, you know, that kind of stuff. There's just all kinds of things. You know, if someone's injured and you know, their leg is broken, or, you know, oh gosh, the guy lost his arm. You know, do you have to make you know, some kind of lean-to carry him on and that kind of thing? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Is there herbs? You run into someone who's like, oh, I know a bit about herbology, and, you know, he's got an infection now, but if you can find this herb or that herb or this plant or this animal or whatever, you know, this rare deadly snake guarded by dragons or DBs,
Well,
you know.
it's even worse than that a lot of times, because according to the Rift's book, a normal human, and I'm talking a regular OCC, this is different for if you have an RCC that bioregenerates, or you're a crazy or a juice or whatever, you heal multiples. But for non-life-threatening wounds, your natural healing is 2 hit points a day and 4 SDC a day. That's every 24 hours. But it is contingent on you not exerting yourself for more than, I forget how many rounds in that day, because stitches get torn, stuff gets, you know, re-injured, you know, if you're moving too much. So you have to not only heal slowly, you got to take the slow boat to healing, but you also, during that convalescence period, you have to make sure you don't exert yourself in a way where you completely erase or do even more damage than you did before. But professional treatment, like at a clinic or a hospital, it's 2 hit points a day for the first 2 days, and then 4 hit points a day every day after that, as long as you are in the clinic or the hospital or being treated by the nurse or the doctor. Yes, you are actually getting that professional care. And the moment you do not, like, I'm leaving the hospital against medical advice, well, all those bonuses stop.
Yep.
You're back down to 2 and 4 instead of 4 and 6 hit points and SDC respectively. So you go ahead.
Well, I wanted to progress the question on, but you seem like you have more. Go ahead.
No, it's fine.
So in terms of that, I mean, that's great that, you know, he's talking about the hospital, but without having that immediate healing, have you done things, or what are some ideas for game masters when it comes to the idea of just resource management, or the risks that they may or may not want to take? That before had been simple. Yeah, we're going to charge head first into this. Now they're not. How do game masters make interesting experiences? Because a lot of times we have, well, this great encounter set up, you guys had to bypass it because, you know, you're all hurt. You know how people get with some of that.
Yeah, they shouldn't let it get in their head, and they should still play it out. I mean, obviously, if the whole group or half the group is severely injured, and then, you know, they need to find some place to hole up and heal. And then some of these guys who aren't injured need to go out and catch food or buy food or you know, get medicine. Exactly.
Yeah.
What?
Find that doctor or healer or, you know, psychic who can do something to help, or priest or mage, whatever the case may be. Absolutely. Come on, there's all kinds of stories in comics and movies and novels in real life where that happens, where someone stays behind with the injured person and the other guy has to go out and try to find, you know, a medicine man or a doctor.
That actually reminds me, I was watching the TV show Invincible, and one of the characters got seriously injured, and she was in the hospital, she was in a coma, and then another character went to get this super rare medicine, and he comes back like what's seemingly like a jump cut later, all beat up and messed up, holding this flower from the Amazon forest. Like, I want to see that story. What the hell happened with that? How did he get beat up? What the hell is that flower? Why is it so important? I want to know these things. And they just hand waved it. And I'm like, oh, it's fine.
And as a game master, yes, ask yourself that question and tell that story. Send that character off on that story. or a handful of characters, and then, the trick is with that is the poor guy who's, bleeding out or, suffering a fever, what's he doing the whole game or three? And, you got to give them something to do too. But, that's also the classic, while they're off trying to find him, the medicine he needs and going through hell to get it, which, touching friendship and camaraderie there. Something happens and someone's in trouble, and our feverish or severely injured hero does crawl out of the cave or into or whatever he's been hidden under and steps forward to save the child or the damsel in distress or the village who's being attacked by God knows what. And again, give him opportunities as a game master, or maybe this guy is going to get his butt kicked if he's, got to actually go up against some big badass. So don't make the big bad villain that big or that bad. Make it something this guy can handle. Or give this guy an opportunity, if he plays clever, that he can bluff the villain. I love bluffing and stuff. And I don't see it enough in games. I was playing in a game with Sean Patrick Fannin. And, I said, I want my character. We had a bluff, basically, and it was basically just Star Wars. Here, put these manacles on me, and right. You pretend to be a bounty hunter, and you turn me into the big bad guy. And Fannin's like, and then I'm going to try to mind blast him because I was a mind melter. And he's like, but if you fail, if the guy saves, he'll know what you just attacked him, and he'll kill you. And I'm like,
risk reward, baby.
Yeah, that's
exactly risk reward.
Yeah, exactly. People don't utilize a high MA in Palladium enough.
I agree,
because you could definitely Princess Bride this shit. Just Wesley up and go and to say something like to the pain or whatever to make the other person back down, even though you can barely stand up.
Yes.
Yeah, do some more of that. Use that high MA. I've got a 50% chance for trust intimidate. Well, frickin' use it, man. I'll even give you a bonus if you got a good to the pain story to go along with it. That'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I do that all the time where it's like, yeah, give me your pitch, and if the player, plays awesome, even if I roll a die and it's like, what, it was a failed roll, but. Fuck, man, that pitch was so damn good. This guy hesitates, and he goes, I think you're full of crap. But maybe you're not. And I'm going to back off, man. But I'm watching you.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's called role playing. It's called go with the flow. That's
one of the things that Heathen Dog and I have talked about a lot with, I like to call Palladium a framework. And I think that people forget that game masters can add bonuses. Obviously, the book talks a lot about penalties because most gaming books do. It does talk about bonuses as well. You're the game master. You can add bonuses. You don't have to look up what it says on page 142 to get the exact right result. If you think that what the character did was freaking awesome and has a chance of success, whether realistically or rule of cool, however you play your game, give it a bonus. Nothing should be guaranteed. I always believe in dice rolls, but there's nothing to say you can't give a bonus to a die roll just because it's not written in the book.
Well, and especially if a player does something so impressive that not only are you as the game master impressed, but the rest of the group goes, wow.
Yeah.
Reward that.
Right. Yes.
If
that to happen again.
Went, wow.
Yes.
Then, there have been a few times where I'll sit back and go, I don't even need the roll.
That
was just so amazing. Everyone in the room is like, wow. It's, yes, the bad guy backs off or whatever the case may be. It's a role-playing game, and you're going for fun. You're going for drama. You're going for teamwork. They play phenomenally well. That's great. Or if they have to fail after playing phenomenally well and their final roll is shit, don't make it devastating.
Yeah, they did all that. They were breaking their arm, patting themselves on the back, and everyone was patting on the back because that was awesome. And then you roll a 1.
Yeah.
Damn it.
You can still have that be a comedic mishap.
Yes. Absolutely. I love comedy and humor in games. I'll do that all the time. Especially when one of the other players, will like, yeah, I'm shooting my laser at the guy right behind him, and it's like, are you sure about that? Oh yeah, I'm sure. And other players like the guy right behind me, and the guy, like you said, the guy rolls a 1 or a 3 or a 5, and you're like, that's a miss. And I have it. Yeah, I said, your life passes before your eyes because you see this blaze of light heading towards you, and then one of the other players will dump in, or it just blows right past him and nicks his helmet or his ear, and it's like, oh, whew. Or he falls, and spectacularly, if it's not a life and death situation, and and it's your classic comedic, oh, you're right in a mud puddle and you get stuff all, and everyone's laughing, and it's like, yeah, fine. The great graceful knight, or cyber knight, or whatever.
Right. As an example of someone who has role played excellently, and success came down to a single roll, and it was just so bad you can't even fudge it. Here's it, and this person is at like a 50-story building, and he did all this complex stuff, really, really great, role playing, really great ingenuity, but still he fails that role and he falls off the side of the building. There could always be a little painter scaffolding right there. Window washer, pulley system thing could be right there. You are still preserving the die roll. You're still preserving the random result, but you don't want him to fall 50 stories after all that really cool crap he just did. Yeah. So
he'll be convalescing, but he's not dead.
He's not dead, but he's knocked out, and technically he did fail. So there you go. Win-win.
Yeah, or there's an awning or a flagpole he can grab onto, and he's hanging now 30 stories, and he's got to figure out how the hell he's getting out of this situation.
Palladium is a cinematic game. Stuff like that happens in cinema all the time.
All right. I have some mega damage questions that are prepared, but I'm going to ask Heath and Doug first, since we're going to jump on over into the mega damage portion of this. Do you have any specific questions you want to ask, or do you want me to just continue to ask mine?
For
directly related to mega damage, because we're going
to in the Rift's Ultimate Book, I didn't find any long-term physical ailments due to damage. I didn't find any tables like that, like for insanity. I didn't see anything. Maybe I missed it, but I went over this book a couple of times this week, and I couldn't find any. Are there any existing physical impairment due to damage tables or charts or whatever in other books that people can refer to if they want to use this in their game?
Yeah, I want to say that the Game Master Guide may have some optional damage tables.
Okay.
I used to have some really good ones, especially for like robots and stuff in Robotech. And just so many people have just moved away, as we've talked about earlier, had moved away from, my mech's leg is out, or my power armor arm is dislocated, and so I can't use it anymore. And people just don't seem to do that much. So we've kind of walked away from that a little bit.
Yeah, the ones that I reference, because even After the Bomb doesn't have a lot of stuff like that, but Heroes Unlimited does have a good, I think, is a very good list of almost everything that you said with regard to the healing, plus some critical injury, or criticals or something different, lingering injuries and so forth for SDC and hit points. MDC becomes a completely different animal, though. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, because we were talking about lingering injuries. And so what do you think is the best way to integrate lingering injuries into MDC conflicts, so characters aren't simply wiped out when they face, this kind of overwhelming damage? Or are they supposed to be?
Oh, I got that.
But we're talking concepts, not rules, dude.
It is. It's there. It's right there. There's an optional thing for surviving mega damage attacks as an SDC being. It's optional because it should be, right? You at first blush, you should not survive being shot with an MDC weapon if you're just a stupid fleshy,
Right. Oh, I agree with that.
SDC thing. But if you want it to happen, there are charts and tables for random limb loss, burned organs, all stuff like that. That if you do not get medical attention immediately, and by immediately I mean a minute or less, you're going to be dead anyway. Doesn't matter. But you could survive it with no legs or one leg or one arm or one eye or no jaw or whatever. Or I lost my spleen in one of my kidneys from that laser gun. That sucked. Stuff like that. It is survivable, but only in specific situations where professional treatment can be garnered immediately. Other than that, you're just dead. You just dead.
I mean, that's the way I've done it. I don't do MDC games that much, but yeah, you get hit with MDC, you're a squishy thing. You're not meant to be hit by MDC. I want you to stand in front of that M1 Abrams and let it hit you and see what happens.
Yeah, let it hit you anywhere. Choose anywhere.
5 feet around you.
Yeah, choose anywhere. You're still dead.
Yeah, if you're an SDC being and you get shot, I mean, your best hope is by a mega damage weapon, and even one MD point. You hope it just hit your hand or your arm, because now it's gone in a spray of mist.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll live. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for the limb thing, I completely understand, because if you get shot in the arm with a mega damage laser beam, it will cut off your arm. It will cauterize that, but it will burn. It will flash burn. It will flash cook your whole arm, probably up to your shoulder. So if you don't get medical attention immediately, you will die of shock right there. But if you do, there's only so much hit point damage you can take, because it's just one of your arms. Yeah, it's going to hurt a lot. And yes, it's going to suck super bad, a whole lot. But you can make the argument that you can't lose all of your hit points if someone shoots you in the hand. There's an argument for that. No, the other side of that coin is shock will kill people. So like I said, it still necessitates immediate medical treatment. Minutes.
It's funny because a lot of people will point to, those rare occasions where, well, but what do you mean? This guy took, 14 rounds and he still lived. Look at Rasputin. He was poisoned and shot and stabbed. And
that's why he's famous.
Yeah. and you don't know how much of that is myth rather than reality. So who knows?
Well, and even if it's reality, it's that 1 in a million.
Yeah.
It's that rare guy that just all the right things lined up in a perfect storm that managed to allow them to survive.
It's funny you say that, Kevin, because one of the anecdotes I use, I watch a lot of police videos because I can just kind of keep them rolling. A couple of years ago, I watched one where a guy did get shot 9 times, went down, they thought he was dead, got up, got shot 5 more times, and was still fighting. Guess what his ultimate result was, though?
Math?
He didn't make it. But he was still fighting for a while, about 30 seconds, with 14 gunshot wounds. But that is not the norm. Okay, no, that is not the norm. That's somebody who was probably on a bunch of PCP and had a lot of adrenaline going through his system.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. The human body is extremely resilient for an extremely short period of time.
That's why we have medicine.
It's funny because you talk about the human body. I mean, it is on one hand it's so resilient, and on the other hand, it's so freaking fragile.
Yep.
You just never know how it's going to be.
35 here. We've all went to sleep and woke up injured.
Yes.
Right now. Apparently, most of my MDC questions are about blending SDC and MDC. I didn't have a lot of MDC, so I'm going to ask one of the viewers' questions. It's just a curiosity question. How come? I should probably ask it the way he asked it. Nope, that isn't his question. So generally, I can't see it right now. Essentially, what he asked was, how come there isn't normal MDC healing? So, or I'm sorry, MDC hit points. Why is there SDC and hit points, but not MDC and MHP? for like those mega damage creatures?
I can't answer that.
Because, well, so MDC applies to both creatures and robots and power armor. So it was just simpler just to keep it one stat rather than have like an SDC equivalent. You're talking creatures who are, out of the norm. Well, I mean, they're kind of the norm in Rifts, but they're not. If you have MDC, you're something that's more than a human,
More than mortal.
More than, thank you.
Yeah.
You're either supernatural or you're magical or you're something bizarrely alien. And so you just have
your body works differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Think about it. In Rifts, they have the whole optional taking hit point damage, causes more blood loss, more this, more that. It hurts more. It's more debilitating. But if you don't have hit points, you can't be that debilitated. That's how much more powerful an MDC creature is than an SDC / hit point creature.
Exactly.
They are on another level.
Yes.
So their damage has to be handled differently. All of their MDC.
I think the question was related to, hit points, SDCs, like bumps and bruises, yada, yada, where hit points, okay, that's internals. And I think the way it was expressed was like, hey, are there not internals to these mega creatures as well?
No, they're just that tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're built differently than a mortal, non-supernatural creature.
You're talking about something as a living tank.
Yeah. I mean, for example, comic books, the Fantastic Four, the Thing. He's not just rock on his skin. His organs are made of organic rock. Everything in there is like a moving rock. So him not having hit points and him only having MDC would make sense, because you could argue that he doesn't have real flesh. He only has, non-living living parts, so they're just built differently. Magic is infused in them, and so their bodies work differently than ours do, and they're not really mortal anymore.
They're not in the same sense that humans are, not at all.
Right. I mean,
or mortal beings, cats,
a
dogs,
lot more
humans.
effort, and they can heal both faster and more completely because they're made of literally, sterner stuff.
Yeah, that's why a lot of those creatures do. They have bioregeneration. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them.
1d4 times 10 per hour or per minute or whatever, depending on how powerful they are. But yeah, I mean, they heal faster. They don't take any long-term physical ailments because their bodies are halfway powered by magic. Yeah. So they are a magical structure,
or something much more than human. Yeah, magic or supernatural or
right.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers this question. Took the place of mine. What strategies have you seen? This is a little bit more combat oriented here, but what strategies have you seen are used to reward smart tactics in MDC combat rather than simply rewarding who has the biggest gun? Because when how I introduced today, I know Heathen Dog and I, we joke about Plastic Man armor. Who's gonna... That's going to get chewed through in 2 or 3 shots from anything reasonable, less than 1 shot from a glitter boy. And even if you got like a Wilkes 4.57, it's not going to protect you long from that. So how do we encourage players, instead of just, I'm hyperbolizing here, but did we win? To actually, what's that?
Make them think about what they're doing instead of just going Rambo.
Or complaining about, well, I just have Plastic Man armor, so I can't fight. Dude, that's MDC armor! How do you mean you can't fight? Yeah. So what have you seen, or what have you used, or what have you rewarded folks for good tactical analysis, for lack of a better term, in those kind of fights?
Pretty much the same as anything else. Experience points for being clever or cunning or sneaky or smart. Any moron can pull a trigger and fire a weapon. Um, using that strategically, and likewise with the armor. Okay, I'm going to make sure I find cover, or I want to be careful. I'm going to do this or that. I mean, to me, that's smart playing, and you get experience for that.
In Rifts, how beneficial is cover with the prevalence of MDC everywhere?
I mean, it can be very, very, very important. Even if it's an SDC structure, if you're hiding behind something and your attacker can't see you, sure, it can be shooting wild through and hoping he's going to hit something through that, but he's still shooting wild or blind. So that gives you a huge advantage. If you're dodging behind MDC materials, that's going to save your ass if you're not in armor. There's a lot of advantages to that. Just like smoke and other kind of cover. Where you can hide and blend in with your surroundings. I mean, it all still applies.
Yeah. The biggest advantage to hiding behind an SDC structure in an MDC fight is concealment.
Yeah.
Your attacker is going to have minuses because of the concealment, whether or
and
not
you're sitting there going, "Oh God, don't shoot me! Don't shoot me! Don't shoot me! Don't shoot me!"
Yes.
Exactly right. Exactly right. But also, you have to understand that that giant rocks, they may be SDC, but they have hundreds of SDC. So that MDC weapon, a Wilkes laser pistol, does 1d4 MDC. Well, you're standing behind a 20-foot boulder. He rolls a 1. It didn't get through.
Yeah.
So it's now cover and concealment for that attack anyway.
Or and again, game masters need to use their judgment. But using that example of a 20-foot boulder. It might take that Wilkes, it will take that Wilkes several blasts to chisel it down until you can see what's behind that rock.
And still, there's no guarantee he's going to hit you with that last shot that does get through, because he's still got the minuses because you're under concealment.
Yep.
All right. I think that's a very important distinction there. And I only have one question left that I'm going to ask for today. Is that I know, and I've seen it happen. That's why I say I know in this one, that at least some players look at boulders. That's just an SDC object.
Oh.
And that doesn't, I mean, to be fair to me, that doesn't always make sense. Well, I mean, if a building's SDC, a boulder's going to be SDC. They get, I think, realistic isn't the word I want to use. They get too nuanced into because it said something somewhere like a bank vault door is 1,000 SDC, so that means it can't be empty, yada yada. Guys, game masters, Kevin said it a couple times today. We've implied it a few times. Use some common sense. The rules are a framework. They are not the law book that every lawyer needs to go and research. Okay, but use it to guide your decision making.
Right, but in that instance that you're talking about, there is actually rules for that. Structures that are large, like buildings, wall fortifications, giant 20-foot boulders, whatever, there are rules built in that they have so many SDC per 10 feet, 20 feet, 40 feet. And if you shoot with a mega damage weapon, you will destroy that entire section, the 10-foot, 20-foot, 50-foot section. But the entire building was not hit.
Yeah, but you're missing the point. I don't care. I want that section gone because I want the juicy nugget that's behind it.
Well, no, you'll defeat that section to maybe show the juicy nugget behind it, but because of concealment, you probably didn't hit that juicy nugget. Yeah,
no, that's fair. But I'm talking for the purposes of cover, not concealment in this regard. But,
okay, well, yeah.
But I agree with its use as cover. I'll be very clear. I agree with its use as cover.
Oh, all right. Well,
I mean, obviously, if your piece of cover, it's the same thing if someone threw a hand grenade and blew up that boulder. I mean, you better find a new piece of cover.
Yeah. But there is also the rule. There is also the rule that an MDC structure, be it armor, a tank, a wall, whatever, will absorb the entirety of the last attack that broke its MDC.
I was about to say that. Yep.
Yeah, I figured you would. I want to jump in front of you so I can look smart, not you.
There you go.
So for example, you have a 1 MDC wall and you hit it with 40 MDC energy blast. There's a guy hiding behind that wall. For that moment, that wall is both concealment and cover, because none of that damage is going to get to him, even if you hit him dead on, or would have hit him dead on, because that MDC structure absorbed all of that attack that killed it. But now the problem is the person hiding behind that wall has to find a new wall.
Yep. That's exactly right.
The last one I'm going to ask, well, at least related to this for today, I might ask Kevin to come back sometime in the future, so that's technically another question. What tips? That's the way I want to do it. Tips. What tips do you have for introducing mega damage into a campaign so that people can still use, or maybe that even enhances existing SDC and hit point framework rather than overshadowing it? So this is related from like about 8 questions I got in different tones, so this is how I reworded it. There are people, and I'm one of these people, that look at Rifts and say, wow, Rifts talks about how MDC is special, but literally everything in the game has MDC. This is weird. Or something I've done, incorporate aspects of Robotech or Rifts into my After the Bomb games. So what tips out there for folks who want to do something similar, but actually keep MDC as MDC and SDC as SDC? What tips do you have them to enhance the campaign without overshadowing the SDC side of it?
Well, you want to limit it, that's for sure. If you're bringing mega damage into an SDC environment, you want to make sure the mega damage
Is rare and special.
I'm sorry, is what?
Rare and special.
Yes, exactly. You want to definitely limit it. And, it's going to be that special aircraft or robot, much like Robotech, where it's used in a military capacity against pretty much enemies that are also MDC enemies. And if you got something that's MDC running amok, you want to make sure you have other ways of defeating that adversary.
Right. A lot of people don't realize that in the Rift's Ultimate book, it gives a clarification of SDC versus MDC. An SDC weapon can damage an MDC material as long as a single damage roll does over 100 damage.
Yes.
Or 200 damage or 400 damage. That means if you hit a glitter boy with a cruise missile,
yes,
it will do between 1 and 10 MDC damage. Is that going to seriously just piss off the glitter boy? Yeah, a little bit. But, you did damage. So you get enough cruise missiles in there or the like, you can take out, giant power armor. It's just going to take a significant GDP of your third world country to do it.
What about knocking that glitter boy around? A cruise missile, whatever its damage might be, has a pretty big explosive impact in terms of compression and...
In Heroes Unlimited, it does have a knockback and stagger table, depending on the amount of damage is done, whether or not it actually did damage to the recipient. He could be invulnerable or an MDC creature or whatever, but that concussive force knocked him off his feet and back a certain number of yards, lost initiative trying to get up, stunned maybe, he got his brain rattled a little bit, whatever. There's rules for that too. And that's awesome because if you're throwing missiles left and right, you want some collateral damage. You want some people thrown around like ragdolls, even if they're not hurt, it looks cool.
If you're bringing in MDC creatures or mech, you really need to think of it very much like a tank, whether it's a walking tank or whatever. It's so how would you handle a tank in your game? Because it's basically an MDC type thing. I mean, yes, in our games we give tanks SDC, but I mean they have high armor rating. You have to roll high as hell to even penetrate, and it's so it. I think people get a little lost in what an SDC and MDC type thing is. It's like, think of that thing as a walking tank. and you want to limit it that way, and you want to have it face like other things that could, that can handle a walking tank. And that's that. I think that's just sort of the best analogy I can bring up, because in our own SDC world, like I said before, if a tank rolls down your street, you can shoot it all day long with your rifles and handguns and clobber it with a baseball bat, and you're going to scratch the paint and take out an antenna, but that's about it. And so how do you deal with that? Very carefully and very differently. And so really kind of think of your MDC creature as sort of that walking tank, especially if it's a robot, or especially if it's something intelligent. And then there's all kinds of other things. If it's a creature, MDC creature, you can still mind control it, or paralyze it maybe, or
crush it in underneath a falling building,
bury it, trap
bury
it
it alive. It might not kill it, but it'll be there for months trying to dig out. Stuff like that.
Exactly.
What about the idea of using it? I don't want to call it as a red herring, but as just that is the indomitable foe you can't beat. You have to sneak around it. You've got to do other things. You've got to set up 3 computer systems that are all going to, target satellites that can attack it instead of directly going after it.
Yeah. Again, the way you would handle a tank.
Sure.
Yeah. You would find a way to come at this thing sideways. Get underneath it. Get behind it. EMP it. Whatever. You have to find another alternative rather than just brute force, because brute force is not going to cut it.
And that's what I think people lose sight of. It is that brute force thing. I'm glad you worded it that way, Heathen Dog, because I think people think gun, and it's like, oh, but this is an MDC gun, and this is just an SDC gun, so it's unfair, and how do we do it? And it's like, well, yeah, but how would you handle a tank? You would go around it. You would avoid it. You would set up a tank trap in the alley when it chases you, or some kind of pit trap that it falls into, or
asymmetric warfare.
Yep.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Heathen Dog, do you have anything you want to wrap up with here yet? I know you didn't get a lot of time to ask questions, so forth, but anything?
Well, if you have time for my horror factor rant, that'll take 5 minutes.
Go ahead.
It's a rant.
All right,
okay.
Cool. All right, I was reading
since
horror
you're changing
factor.
topic, can I read the super chat real quickly?
Sure.
Since it's a $20 one, I kind of have to jump that one in there. Nutty Squirrel said, "What is here?" It says, "Hi guys, Kevin. Any update on Beyond the Supernatural magic rules?" Thanks.
Yes.
All right. There we go.
There we go. There it is.
Thank you for the $20. Sorry, Nutty Squirrel for the yeah. There is an update apparently.
No, we can. Sean and I have talked about this. So, and I think we've mentioned this in one of our earlier episodes with you guys or someplace. So, we want to see Beyond the Supernatural and the magic stuff done as much as anyone else. And it's just a really matter of, juggling our time. I think because our stuff is so slick and clean and good and fun, and we have so many books in print, because you wonderful people keep buying them and want them. We're actually a pretty small company. We're all juggling a lot, and things get in the way. And I've been dying to write the magic book, the Beyond the Supernatural, Beyond Arcanum, and Tomes Grotesque, for years and years. Beyond the Supernatural is one of my favorite settings, and I really want to deliver on those. And it just seems like there's always something that's more important that comes in the way, because as a business, you often have to put aside the things you personally want to do and do what's best for the business. But we are, as everyone knows, one of our big agendas is to release a lot of books that people have been waiting for a long time, over the next few years. And Beyond the Supernatural is one of those books that we really want to get those 2 products out so people can finally have them and have fun with them. And so we are shooting hard to come out with Beyond Arcanum and Tomes Grotesque sometime in 2025. Whether it'll be summer, I'd love to have it out in time for Gen Con. That is not a promise. That is not a target date.
That is a hope and dream.
You know how people are.
But we I would love that, and we'll see what happens. We are definitely shooting to try to get it out by the end of this year. People have waited forever for it, and like I said, it's something we all want to see. Me, Sean, everybody who's a BTS fan, and I think it'll help take BTS to a whole new level and create a lot of excitement. And the reason Tomes Grotesque is tied to the magic book is because a lot of the creatures in Tomes Grotesque will utilize magic. And so I have to hammer out completely the magic system and the spells and how that all works before I can incorporate it into the creatures. So that's why those two books have been pretty linked. And we kind of, when we did creature feature, we thought, well, we'll try and kind of toss out a bunch of little creatures, not little creatures, but a bunch of creatures that don't necessarily utilize magic to kind of fill in that gap so people still have more to play with. But yeah, that's definitely. But Rift's Bestiary Volume 2, that's the very next book that Sean's working on after Turtles goes to the printer. And honestly, there's been work on it already. I mean, there's been a ton of stuff done on it. And Sean needs to go in and put in the final edits and some handful of creatures and
Sean,
the final layout, and that'll be done. And then I need to get Yinsloth Expeditions done. That's the next book I'm that I'm working on to get done into the printers and into your hands, followed by Rifts Antarctica. And then there's a bunch of other things we'd like to squeeze in there, but we don't want to make promises we may not be able to keep. So.
Fair enough.
All right, I'm going to read one more super chat. Folks, I'm not going to even take any more super chats at this point. We're going to let Heathen Dog have his back and forth with Kevin on this. It's going to be the last topic we talk about today. I had a bunch of other chats starred. Sorry I didn't get to them. It's not a issue. We're hitting the super chat ones, but I didn't ignore you guys out there. We just had to keep this flowing. But thank you, everybody who's here. A lot of great chat today. A lot of great comments. A lot of love for Kevin, which is appropriate. The last super chat I'm going to read, or it's Rumble Rant over on the Rumble side, says, thanks for giving us your time, Kevin. These episodes really are something I look forward to, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Hope you feel better soon. Thank you, Siembieda. So
I appreciate it.
Heathen Dog, you get to wrap up the show. So this is all you and Horror Factor, sir. And by the way, this stemmed from a question we got on Discord. He looked into it and then came up with his own. Who is it? Was it Nerdy Ogre that posted the question?
Yes, I believe it was Nerdy Ogre that asked you the question, and then you asked me the question, and I had to find out what was what. So here's Horror Factor in the Rift's Ultimate book. The Horror Factor represents either the hideous appearance of or overwhelming aura of evil power, or both. Whenever a human/mortal encounters one of these terrors, the character must roll whether or not he's afraid, and the Horror Factor actually works on him. Human/mortal. This is important. By the rules, if you are neither of those things, Horror Factor is not going to work on you. Now, the slash in this, I examined it and I went super pedantic like Max loves to do. I'm using that slash as an example of I'm in a love-hate relationship. Both of those things are true. But either of those things are true as well. Does that sound stupid? It is stupid. But if you are a human and a mortal, then you must roll Horror Factor whenever you are confronted by Horror Factor. That's what I'm reading here. Now, the Max had a question. Well, what about two supernatural creatures? They have Horror Factor and they meet each other. Do they roll Horror Factor on each other? And I'm like, My first answer by reading this would be no, because they are neither human nor mortal. So they would not. But I'm thinking, well, that's just dumb. Then what's the horror factor for? So I went super headcanon in this. I went down the rabbit hole. That's what happened. And I made a tier system. All right. Using this human/mortal as a base. And I'm gonna show it to you right now. I'm gonna present my other thing.
This is all new to me.
All new to him. All right, here we go. So there's 3 tiers here, okay? For the bottom one is the human / mortal. Now, this is Riff, so I'm going to go humanoid or DB / mortal. Okay, you are not a supernatural creature and you are not immortal. You are affected by all horror factor everywhere, because horror factor in my headcanon isn't just they're scary, isn't just they have an aura of absolute evil and power. It's more than that. It's baser than that. They are bringing out the fear of imminent death in you. Every single person that is alive is afraid of death. They know it's going to happen. They know they can't stop it. Someday you will be dead. A human / mortal or a non-supernatural creature who is mortal can die from 100 different things any second of the day. So the fear of death is prevalent in their life all the time. They're affected by all horror factor. And then there's the next tier up. Supernatural mortal. These are people or beings that are more than mortal. Maybe they're MDC. Maybe they're magically infused. Maybe they got whatever. But death is not as much of a certainty to them. Sure, eventually they will get old and die, but dying in combat, especially from a squishy regular human, is a far-fetched prospect. So they are not affected by horror factor from anything below them, which is the regular humans, mortals. And along with that is also the regular human or non-supernatural immortal. They are not affected by horror factor below this level either, because they don't have that fear of death that regular people do. They will live forever if they're not killed. So the fear doesn't affect them as much. But from a supernatural creature or another immortal, they could die from that, like from damage, head torn off, dead. So they're affected by their level, but nothing below it. And above that is the pinnacle, which is supernatural and immortal. They are only affected by things on their level, not below. So 2 demons from 2 different sides come together. They are both supernatural creatures. They are both immortal. They both have a horror factor. Using my tier list, they would have to roll off on each other. But they would not have to roll off on anything below them in their tier level.
I apparently view horror factor a little differently than you, because I agree with most of what you said, but I think the one thing from my perspective, you didn't add it, it's just the creepiness of some things. Well, some things are just icky, and I don't care if you're supernatural or not.
You are right. You are right. You are right. But things that are creepy and icky, if you examine it, it's because they're going to hurt you. You feel like they're going to hurt you. Like bugs. You know an ugly looking bug cannot hurt you. You know it, but you're still afraid of it. Why? You think it's dangerous. You think it because you're afraid of what it could do. Now, if you're a regular human who is mortal, you're afraid of a lot of things because a lot of things can kill you. But as you go up the list, your fear of death, imminent death, or death by damage lessens and lessens. So you get to the 3rd tier. You are a supernatural creature that is immortal. You are extremely hard to kill with violence, and you will never die of old age. Your fear of death is very minimalized because it's just not a reality for you in most cases. So you are only affected by things that can actually cause you to die, which are things on your level. So yeah, that is my headcanon reworking of horror factor roll-offs, or what horror factor affects what type of creature.
So first of all, before Kevin chimes in here, I just want to defend Heathen Dog for a moment here. Kevin, if you take this, I'm sure he's going to want royalties, just to let you know.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, what are your thoughts on what he said there? Does it make a sort of sense, or is he off the mark? Or?
So, first of all, this would be a derivative work. Yeah. So, it's mine.
Yeah, I tried, Heathen Dog. I tried.
He's not wrong.
And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I really like it.
It came out of my mouth. Of course it's gold. Come on.
I am stunned, but he's not really wrong. I don't know if I would have quite worded it the way he did, but it's pretty damn good.
All right.
And you know, you talked about creepy factor, Max. I mean, the thing is, you're judging creepy by human standards.
True.
So to these things, some of which look like bugs and stuff, you've seen our demons,
Yeah,
and what they look like and stuff. I mean, you know, a creepy bug that's creepy to us isn't creepy. You know, and it's also a matter of your orientation. Like you know, there's been bugs that I'm surprised at how many. I'm a bug guy. I like bugs. I find them interesting. I just don't pick up any bug I see because, you know, it could be dangerous. Hence, Heathen Dog's theory here. But you know, there are bugs that I know are completely harmless, and like a cicada or any number of beetles, and I have no qualms about picking it up and moving it out of the building, or, you know, saying hello.
You can just add +2 to the horror factor. I won't even walk in my shed when there's a cicada shell up there. I'm like, nope, knock that thing off. I'm not gonna be anywhere near that stupid thing.
You know,
you know it won't hurt you. You know that cicada shell can't hurt you, but still you have a visceral fear reaction to it.
I hate bugs, dude.
It's your horror factor, and you failed it.
Absolutely, every time.
And clearly, you have, you know, in Palladium, you would have at least a mild phobia.
Yeah.
And, you know, that adds to your cringe factor.
Yep.
Where for me, you know, the same thing. You know, you see people sometimes, they will pick up a snake, and some people in the crowd will be like, "Oh no, I wouldn't let that crawl on me." And it's like, no, it's just a snake, man. It's not a big deal. But there's other things that would be gross. I saw a spider running across my kitchen counter just this morning. Big ass black spider, and he had to die because arachnid's bad, even though I love Spider-Man. You know, it just, and again, why did he have to die? It's that creepy factor. But I'm not, I'm not a creature of magic or a supernatural being. So yeah, that's my reaction to it. But yeah, no, there was I think it was Chuck Walton he was down south, so you might have seen these too. Or was a big ass cicada, I guess like
oh yeah,
the size of your hand or half the size of your hand, and he brings this photo of it to me. He describes it. I said, it sounds like a cicada. And he brings a photo, and I'm like, yeah, it's just a cicada. He goes, but it was the size of your hand. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just a cicada.
There was a beetle on the ground a couple years ago in the summer. It was the size of my cell phone. And it was like this. I walked around across, well, not fully across, but damn near across the street, came back on, and I thought about it later. It's like, man, if that's still there later in the afternoon when I take my second walk, I'm going to take a stick and flip it over because I don't like creatures, even bugs, suffering. Sure. But it was just upside down like this. It wasn't there, thank God, but I was freaked the hell out. And if anybody saw me when my eyes picked up that thing when I'm on my walk at work and I'm around a bunch of schoolhouses, they were laughing their asses off because I jumped, I took about 4 steps backward, went across the street. Like, that's why I didn't get a picture of it.
See, my reaction would have been, wow, that's cool. What is that? And I would immediately search for a stick to flip it over.
And I would have been like, what the hell is wrong with him?
So, you know, so other supernatural beings are generally that are immortal. They're not necessarily freaked out by each other.
By rules as written in the Rift's Ultimate, if you are not if you are not supernatural and you are mortal, you have to roll horror factor. If you're not one of those things, if you are supernatural or are immortal, then you don't.
And see, this is the thing I hate to admit about Heathen Dog's theory or levels, which are pretty damn good, is that yes, so you got two supernatural beings. There's always, you'll notice in our demons, there's always a pecking order. And the more powerful you are, you have these minions because they fear you because you can hurt them. And they respect pain and power. Yeah, and so if you're powerful enough to hurt them, then they're going to be subservient to you.
Exactly. Yeah. I added that into my tier list because of the relationship between demons and demon lords.
Yeah.
So I have to have horror factor affect like creatures in some way. So I went with that.
So I mean, he's pretty dead on. So
then my question is, do creatures of that power level, so to speak, do they recognize creatures of their own? Because you could come across a DB that looks like a human but is a mega damage creature, or you could come across something that looks really big and scary like a Hydra that's just SDC.
Oh no, they recognize their own, absolutely.
Oh, I've never ever played it that way, and now I know.
I think I mean, once they see each other, I mean, if it's a shape changer, they might have a question at it first, but then they probably have abilities like the aura and stuff that would tip them off.
Well, the thing about horror factor, it doesn't matter how you're perceived, because horror factor is something that either affects you or it doesn't.
Yep.
So the other person isn't going to know. Like, for example, you're Hydra and human looking supernatural immortal creature. The Hydra is SDC, but you are you're a godling. You're going to live forever, basically, and it takes a lot of damage to actually kill you. You are not afraid of death. Fear is not a thing that happens to you.
And the way our supernatural beings work, especially the demonic, is if you are killed in a dimension or plane of existence, right? You don't actually die. I mean, you suffer. You're kind of like Wolverine or Deadpool. Ouch, I died and it sucked and it hurt, but man, I just reappear.
Well, it takes like 1d4 years, decades, whatever. But yeah, you're just going to come back to life in your home dimension.
Well, and to an immortal, that's nothing. Yeah, okay, it's 50 years later, 100 years later.
Like Tuesday, whatever. I took Tuesday off.
Yeah, but even outside the demon realm and so forth, one of the things, and maybe I guess I've been doing this wrong, is you don't know that that's an MDC or SDC creature until you actually interact with it. That's how I've always dealt with it. Now, to be fair, I don't deal with a lot of MDC. And if that's either wrong or no, they can recognize power level. Supernatural creatures know other supernatural creatures. I'm gonna call them old ones, but the high level mega, whatever you want to call it, the tier ones for Heathen Dog recognize other tier ones. That's just not how I've done it. And if they do recognize each other, then that's easy answer for the question.
As to they know the horror factor won't work on somebody else. They don't. Or they don't all the time. But horror factor is not an attack. It's a role of defense, like a saving throw.
I know what it is. That isn't what I was arguing.
Okay, but so if a demon lord and a human with horror factor as well, because demon lords have horror factor, and you have a human in Heroes Unlimited, he has horror/off factor, which is a power. You can have it. Great. And you polymorph yourself into a demon as well. So it looks like there's two demon lords facing off on each other. The actual demon lord is not going to roll horror factor.
No.
The fake demon lord will.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking more like you got something from, say, Phase World that's never, and then something that rifted into Earth. Two beings that have just literally never seen each other, heard of each other, don't know anything about each other before. One happens to be SDC or not. Yeah, one happens to be SDC, the other happens to be MDC or whatever your tiers are there. I mean, is that something that? This guy just instinctively knows that is not an MDC creature?
No, I wouldn't say instinctively knows, but I would say, the horror factor would not affect the higher tier being.
Okay, so that's the disagreement we have, because I disagree with that. If you're exposed to something you don't know and you don't know that it's SDC, you can make assumptions about, like, oh, look at that, you're a cute little human. I pat you on the head, and then that human takes you and does the droopy on you, boom, 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 and then, okay, now I'm afraid of this thing and I don't ever want to deal with it again. That's how I've always seen it. It's like things that go bump in the night for us. As for them, I absolutely agree with the concept that a demon isn't going to care about a boogeyman. But if rumors get out there, if you meet something that that doesn't meet its status there, that's the Vorpal bunny, so to speak. like then the horror factor kicks in. That's how I saw it. So, I'm not complaining, and just so folks out there know, I'm not complaining. I'm not saying anybody's wrong. I'm actually trying to wrap my head around this a little better.
That's why I based horror factor on fear of death in my headcanon, because the higher you go up on those tiers, the less fear of death you have. If you're a regular non-supernatural mortal, fear of death, anything can kill you and you will eventually die. Second tier, you're a supernatural mortal or a human immortal. You will eventually die, but it's much harder to kill you, so you have less fear of death. And then the highest tier is supernatural immortal. It's very hard to kill you, and you will never, ever naturally die. Your fear of death is the least out of all of them, so you are not affected by horror factor from these lesser beings.
Fair enough.
It really, like I said, I hate to admit it, it really makes tons of sense.
You could stop saying that you hate to admit it, anytime. You can
Because,
stop saying,
no, there you go. Have your time in the sun.
Really nails it down pretty good, because if you think about it, it makes total sense the way I have things structured, because what holds creatures at bay, supernatural creatures at bay? Things that they fear.
Yep. Holy light,
various holy symbols, particular weird, like vampires are afraid of garlic, and the symbol of the cross and other holy symbols. These are all things that can hurt and or kill them. So even if it's an innate object, and some of those things,
representation of death to them.
Yeah. So like their weakness, if they're vulnerable to silver, they fear and don't like silver.
See it and go, oh, damn.
Right.
Yeah.
So kudos, man. That's good. I like it.
You heard it here. Heathen Dog was right. Max was wrong. There you go. Well, that's a good ending to the show. One of the things that I think that discussion about horror factor also indicates is that, and we mentioned this earlier, is that Palladium is a framework. Mm-hmm. It's for the game master to adjudicate. You don't have to dive into every little concept, and that 3-tiered system isn't written into the game directly. But if that's what works at the table, and it seems to obviously make some good sense, start utilizing it. If we see it in future products, unfortunately, the derivative work thing kicked in, and Heathen Dog gets nothing for it. Not even a name, not even a mention.
Well, if they don't get a mention, I'll be pissed off.
No, I'm going there now because I was the one that was wrong, and I'm sick of being wrong. but no, the point being, and if you even like the way I looked at horror factor, even though it was wrong, if it makes some sort of sense to you, do what works for your games and for your table. Use the rules as a framework to get you to where you need to be and have fun at your table. We didn't even dive into the questions where I was going to talk about some house rules that I know a lot of people have, because they come up every single time we talk about it. But, I convert MDC to this, or I do MDC a different way. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to bring it up if you didn't. That just because you interpreted horror factor differently, and we're playing it a little differently. You were having fun with it. It worked for you. It worked at your table. Your players are having fun. Great. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how it makes sense to you, and that's how you want to play it. It's okay. And house rules are great. You can convert, MDC to whatever by whatever means you like. If that works at your table, then yay. Stay with it. Have fun with it. I love the idea of calling it a framework too. That's because that's exactly what it is.
Oh, look, he threw you a bone.
Yay! I got something. All right. Well, with that, we got to let Kevin go here. So thank you very much, Kevin. Everybody out there has been thanking you, wishing you well. I don't know if you're seeing it or not, but it's been a great time. We only went 20 minutes over this time, which is a record for us. Normally it's 2.5 hours over, so we'll make up on the next one. But thank you for being here. Hopefully Sean can be here next time with you as well. Heathen Dog, any final words for the people out there?
Again, if you want to keep up to date with Palladium Books, you can easily sign up for their newsletter. You will get all the updates that are fit to print. And it might answer the question of when's my book coming out? When are you going to change this? When's this new supplement? Well, look for it, man. Look for it on the weekly newsletter.
Yes.
Or monthly, whatever.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's weekly update.
Weekly. There you go. Weekly.
I try to post it on our Discord when I get the emails. I try to post a link to it on our Discord. But the other thing is, and you can check in the link in the description, subscribe to the Palladium Books YouTube channel. Check out that backer kit for the audiobook. I've listened to it. It is much better than you think it is.
Yeah.
It was really well done. Kevin, any final words before we sign out here?
Nope. That's what I was going to say. That's why I was holding up the Nightbane. Check it out. And don't forget this sale. And yeah, definitely, some of the weekly updates are a little long. And sometimes we repeat, the announcement that a new product or something is out for 3 or 4 weeks. At least skim the thing. Check out the closing thoughts. Check out the opening where we summarize what's going on.
There's usually bullet points. You can just read the bullet points.
Yeah, and ignore the rest of the stuff. But check it out. And then if there's something you guys see, a new product, an old product, something you just discovered, the audiobooks, whatever, spread the word. That helps us. So, because you might think, well, gee, everybody knows about this. No, I still run into people who are like, I just learned about the open house. Or I just heard you guys got Ninja Turtles back. Are you going to kickstart it? I'm like, kind of already did.
Somebody mentioned that in chat earlier. As a matter of fact, it's like, oh, I thought he lost a license for that. I thought, well, they got it back.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, but that's why we do these things with Kevin. That's why he's out there with the Glitter Boys and other podcasts. That's why he's got the YouTube channel, the Palladium Books YouTube channel. It's part of his job being a businessman is to advertise, right? So that's why we want to make sure we give him all the time in the world here to do that. But also, if you read those things, you get those advertisements. I delete most of them, but this is one I don't delete because it's got a lot of really good information. So,
thanks.
All right, everybody. With that, I hope each and everybody has a great week. Members only on Friday, so no GMI this week. And we'll see you next week again with more, was it Rule Cyclopedia and whatever he decides to, whatever Rifter he's on next, I guess. Take care.